But that's how the recording starts. Okay, cool. So yeah, we talked about Reddit, right? And this is like the beautiful user interface that you could see. And then we also talked about, if I do this, and I can go to Reddit, and then I showed you the .json, right? There's also other things that you could do, like what would the RESTful route be if I wanted to see all the users for Reddit?
/users.
Yeah, but really what I want to do is I need the JSON data. If I have the JSON data, then theoretically I can, in fact, build the website, right? We've kind of determined that already, where I can make a fetch maybe to this URL and I can pull the data. When I type in reddit.com/users.json in the browser and I smash that like and subscribe button, I hit return, what kind of HTTP request did I make? A GET, right? Do you know how to make GET requests in JavaScript?
Yes.
Yeah? Talk to me, Goose. Walk me through.
Fetch.
Right? Followed by the
URL.
as a string. Do I have to put in the method?
No, it's option. Well, the default is
The default is
to get.
to get. So I'm not going to put it in. I'm going to make sure I make this as clear as possible. And the then returns the then accepts a
Callback.
callback, right? Which this function specifically will receive, right? And that's the response. So let me finish up this function here. Boop, boop, boop. And then all I'm going to do with this function, oh man, this spacing is out of control. All I'm going to do with this function is I'm going to take the response and I'm going to parse the JSON. I don't want to make the boo-boo and forget to return. And then now that I've parsed the JSON, what should I do? Right, I can console log it, so I'm just going to give it another callback, and this is going to be the parsed JSON. You can name this anything you want, right? So what should this actually be? Parsed JSON is probably a bad name for it. What is the data at users.json basically going to be? If I parse the JSON, what am I expecting to hear?
An object.
What type of object? I mean, an object, yes. Specifically, what's the data? God bless you. What is the data I'm expecting once I parse it? That's Ruby. But more like what's in the data? What is in the data?
Users data. User data.
Right? Yeah. Back to Rails, right? Huh? Yes, key value pairs. I think I'm asking not for the data type, but what is in the data?
User information.
What's in the data here?
User instances.
It is JSON data. It's a hash. It's key value pairs. They're objects, but they're user objects. It's like the data is actually the users. So far, so good. So it should just be users. That would be more explicit. I don't want you to just put like parsed JSON here or response again. If you could be more specific, then it will make more sense, because now when I write the code, I'm going to try to console log the users. That would be mo better. So if I fire this, what do you think I will see? If that's what the GET request looks like, what would this exact same GET request look like once I parse the JSON and I've logged it?
I see exactly what we see on the page on the browser right now.
Thoughts?
Console.
Any other thoughts? Disagree or agree? You saw that pause real quick? How it came up and then it was like a judder and then it came back? That's the time it took to make the network request. Because once I hit return, what does fetch return? A promise. And then it did the network request. The call stack was clear because no other JavaScript's running. So the queue popped on the call stack, and then it logged. So what do we see here?
Promise.
Does this look familiar to you at all?
Yes.
Right? Like, there should be, in fact, no difference between making the GET request with JavaScript, coming back with the data, and making the GET request in the browser, and then just looking at the data. Cool? If I know that I can make that fetch request, well then, can I go into the key of data, go into the children, maybe each them, and then pull out some particular piece of information, and then slap it on the top. And now I have a page that has all my users. If I have a page that has all my users, RESTful routing, going back to Rails, what controller action would display all my users?
Index.
Is it the show?
For all of them?
For all of them.
Let's say that.
Definitely index. So you see how they're starting to get connected here? Let's actually do it. Let's build a brand new Rails app. How do I do that?
Rails new.
Absolutely. All right.
Beat me to it.
Wow, you're on it. All right. What do you want to name this app?
Whatever.
What was it?
Great. I'm just going to take you to Flavortown. I didn't eat breakfast this morning, and I'm hungry. So I'm just going to make a brand new app called Flavortown. And wow, bless up to Rails. Look at everything it's doing. My hands are off the keyboard. My God. So I'm going to cd into Flavortown. And the first thing I'm going to do is I actually need to create like some models, some controllers, some routes, some views. Rails,
G.
I'm going to generate, I can generate the controller, I can generate the model, I can also generate the resources. But if I'm trying to build a very fast backend, very quickly, with everything built for me,
Don't you do it.
the reason we tell you not to do this in the schoolhouse, and you will see it builds so many things for you. It is so bloated, this is not useful or good in production. This is really good to do things like this where you can demonstrate, you could test. But more specifically, I think the better practical application for this for you is you will interview for jobs. And you will say, I'm a front-end developer. And they're gonna be like, great, you wanna be a front-end developer at the New York Times? Very cool. Here's the backend, here's data, here's an endpoint. I need you to build a very fast backend. Don't care what it is, don't care the language. And then I need you to make a beautiful front end with that data. Do you want to spend a lot of time building the back end, or do you want to spend almost all the time building the front end? I would take the data, I'd hit the server, and I would just scaffold the back end. It would take me literally 10, 15 minutes, and then I can spend the 3 or 4 hours making the sexy front end UI because that's the job I'm going for. Does that make sense? So we're going to scaffold, and let's just make a burgers. Burgers. Cool? What are some attributes of burger?
Fun.
Like cook, the temperature, medium rare.
What kind of patty is it?
Okay, sure. Temp, right? Yes. The protein. So the temperature. Do you want that to be like a number or a string or a Boolean or
String.
probably string, right? Do I need to do this?
No.
Ah, super lazy, right? So temp, right? Protein. String, number. Probably string, right? What else?
Cheese.
Okay. What the?
String.
What the? Okay, that was weird. Cheese, we'll just put Boolean. The idea is I'm just going to give you this dummy app. I don't want to waste like a lot of time like going super hard on this, right? So, oh, thank God. Sometimes this hangs and I get stuck in Rails hell. And it takes like 5 minutes and I'm gonna like dance around for you until this works. So, great, I've scaffold, and what does scaffold do for you?
We don't use it.
Yeah, we literally never done it.
Allow me to explain. All right. So let's take a look at apps, specifically the controller, the burger controller. Ooh, bet it up. Interesting. Okay, there's a lot here to unpack, but let's just test it out. I'm gonna spin up my server, a little Rails S, and if I have Rails S, my Rails server is running, I can just check out localhost 3000, and I can see, man, look at this network request. How long is it gonna take? Nobody knows. Pending a migration, right? That powerful EDD. So I am gonna kill the server. Rails, yeah. Whoops, that's not gonna run. Embarrassing. Migrate. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna start my server again. Bang. Yeah, you're on Rails. Cool. If my model is burgers, what do I want to really do? What can I check to see all my burgers? What route should I be hitting? /burgers. That's the RESTful route. Look at this network request. Who knows? Okay, nothing. But I can make a brand new burger. What's the temperature? Rare. Protein? Impossible. Cheese? Of course. Create burger. Burger was successfully created. Refresh? Gone. I can edit, and I can put legendary. I can update it. Wow. On refresh? Done. Back. New burger. Temperature. Fully cooked. Wow. Protein. Obviously. Cheese. Give it to me. Create burger. Back. New burger. Temp. Whatever. Protein. Yeet. No cheese. Create burger. Now, I've just built a fully functional CRUD app in Rails in what I would describe as legitimately 2 commands, right? Rails new, Rails scaffold, 3 commands. Migrate, and then my entire CRUD app is done. Here's the thing though. This is what under Rails is this? Is this of the MVC, what am I looking at? The V.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking at the view, right? Is this help me with what I'm trying to build Rails as a backend? Right? Kind of still not really sure. What I really need is similar to what this is, just the data, because then I'm gonna have a separate front end, whatever that means so far, make these fetch requests, grab the data, and then I get to slap it on the DOM. So, before we move forward, I just wanted to remind you that at this point in Mod 3, I forgot to mention it. I have a little Chrome extension called JSON Formatter. If you do not have it, this is what your data looks like. Impossible to read. But the data's there, I promise you. All right, you get that little formatter, you get that crisp, clean lines, little color code action, becomes very readable, right? Because if I were to ask you like this, hey, how can I access a username? You'd be like, hold the phone. Give me about 45 minutes, right? But then I was like, hey, what key values give me the username? Great, go to data, go to children, go to data again for no reason, and then give me the username. Display name prefixed, right? That took me 4 or 5 seconds. So go ahead and download things that help you, specifically for the JSON formatter. JSON view, there's like 4 or 5 different extensions. I just used this one, it was free. And if it's free,
It's me.
it's for me, that's right. The idea is that if I'm actually doing this, what am I really doing under the hood? Right? Wouldn't it be nice if instead of asking for HTML, I was like, give that to me.
No.
Bless up Lord Rails. DHH. One array objects.
Is that part of the scaffold or was this done?
It's part of Scaffold, but Rails has it out of the box. Can you use this data now to build your website?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do we need the views from Rails? We don't need I was going to say V, but we don't need the views folder in Rails, right? So the views is what the user sees, the front end. Now, what really is the back end then? Controller, the model, the validations, the flash, the error messages, the migrations, the domain modeling, the relationships, all of this backend. How can I connect this into my front end? Well, let's think. I'm going to open a brand new tab like this, and I can do split plane, and I want to split it horizontally. Now we're going to enter the matrix. Boom. My server's running. Cool. It's going to CD into Flatiron School. And then I'm going to cd into your folder. Oops, that's not you. That's not you. And then I'm going to go into the 27, which remember, all I did was build Flavortown. I'm going to make a brand new directory, and it's going to be called Flavortown front end. Cool. So I'm going to cd into Flavortown, the front end. And there's nothing in here. I literally made it in front of you. Brand new, easy peasy. What are some files that I need? Well, I need index.html for sure. And I need probably some sort of JavaScript file. I'm lazy, I'm just going to call it index.js. Okay. Wouldn't it be nice if, wow, bet. Title, Flavortown Cowboy. Okay, I see you. All right. src is equal to index.js. It's in the same file. And because it's in the head, I should probably add the, so far so good. All right. Now in my body, all I'm going to have is the h1. What do you mean? Oh, order is irrelevant in terms of attributes. h1, welcome to Flavortown. And all I'm going to have in there is a button that says, get that data. Okay, this is a very complicated website. Prepare to be blown away by your majesty. Wow, look at that. Saw me build that website in seconds. I'm a developer. How is this front end, this view, this HTML that I just built from thin air, connected to the back end?
It's not.
It's not. The idea is that, based on everything we've learned this week, is there some way that I can somehow click this button, make a network request, fetch, get some data, and slap it on the DOM? That is, it seems like an impossible task. One that we have not learned any of the skills to do. Sarcasm, yeah, right? Yes, please. Okay, right. Grab the button, add the event listener. On click, it will fetch. And what's the data it's gonna fetch? Well, I don't know, maybe something like this to this URL. Could I, in my wisdom, somehow grab this button? Interesting. Don't use caps, by the way. This is bad practice. You know what? This is bad practice. All right? Cool. In my JS, what do I need to do? Grab button. What else? Okay, listen for the click. All right, then make the request. Fetch it from the server, which we know how to do. Is this coming together? Okay, the front end and the back end are completely separate, because while you're busy writing your controllers, your migrations, your relationships, your validations, and all of that, all your custom endpoints, your routing, do you have time to style your page? Do you have time to add more HTML? Do you have time to add more buttons? Do you have time to fix the nav bar? Do you have time to move the nav bar around? Do you have time to add in extra buttons in the nav bar? Do you have time to make it sticky? Do you have time to make absolute position for pop-ups, to create a modal? Do you have time for that? That's the front-end developer's job. The back-end developer is going to be in Rails land, in the back-end, writing the back-end code. How do we feel about front-end and back-end being separate, full-time jobs?
I'm just confused as to why you're doing it this way instead of just staying on Rails and having a JavaScript file there.
We can.
Or why are you not doing that?
I didn't do that because I wanted you to see the separation. You can, in fact, work in the same app. However, when you get to Mod 4, you will learn about a framework in JavaScript that will entirely replace the views, and you cannot use the views folder anymore. So right now I have views for burgers, right? But what if I wanted my front end to be React? All of my JavaScript builds my HTML. If I cannot use the views, then I cannot use the asset pipeline for the JavaScript. I need a separate index HTML, separate JavaScript file, separate folder and repository. Cool? How do we feel so far? Check or hold. All right? Good to go. So, this is why I don't want you to use scaffold. It will build the HTML and the .json. Again, just things that it's too bloated, right? Most applications will not have a view and the JSON at the same time. But let's think of a particular app where you might have an open source API and separate views that render the same thing. Reddit, we just saw it. There's a separate view for it where users can consume it. They can troll through and look at subreddits like Getting Wild. And then you can also hit it as an API with just the data, right? That's cool. That's like a social network thing. But what about something even more practical than that? You ever been to a website called weather.com? Okay, you might want to see that view. But also, if you're building an app that shows the weather in the corner, you might want to hit weather.com's API and pull the data. So weather.com is a great example of where you'll have a view and the ability to render JSON as an API at the same time. But here, if we just want Rails as a backend, there's a way to do that. So let's unfortunately crush this server. But before I do that, respond to. This is what's really happening. There's a built-in functionality, and that is going to be respond to format. If the format is HTML, send them to the burger page, the view page, whatever, blah, blah. If the format is JSON, render some JSON. And I'm going to break down this code later. Cool? How are we feeling so far? Like if I did the .html, it gave me the view. If I did the .json, it gave me the JSON data. So
that's just creating both of those right there.
Yeah, it's creating. Yep, exactly.
How do we, if you were going to scaffold?
I'm going to break it down for you right now.
Okay.
But love where the head's at.
Or
Huh? Break it down Barney style?
Barney style, yeah.
You know it. ELI 5. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
It means explain like I'm 5. Which has been very helpful for me in my career. Because me, unfortunately, not so smart. So let's take a look. I have Flavortown front end. But now let's actually build Rails as just a backend. So I'm going to do Rails new. And I'm going to call Flavortown backend. This builds me a brand new Rails app. But if I just want Rails as a backend, only backend, no views, and I want it to be an API, well, I can tell it -- API. No, sorry, you can't see that. Cool. There's also other flags that you can give it, right? Like, oh, what do you want the database to be? And you can set it to Postgres. You can set it to other things that would function out in production. And there's other things that you can do. Some things that you can do that I probably should have just done, but I fired it already, is like you can remove the Git, because now I have a Git repository in a Git repository. Because Rails adds the .git out of the box for you. Probably should have done it, but that's fine. We could do this. Flavortown into the backend rm-rf.git. Cool? And now it's gone. All right. Sorry. I'm talking fast today because there's a lot of stuff I want to get through. How's the pace?
It's great.
All right. Good deal. So let's take a look at what this backend does with the --API flag.
I have a question, sorry. The
Mhm.
RMRF, does that remove Rails?
No, rm-rf is very dangerous. It means remove. -f means recursively force. That means it will not ask you, and it will search for that file, and it will delete it permanently from memory. It's not in the trash. You can never get it back. So be careful with that. With bash, there's nothing built in for you to help. You'll have to rm-rf very carefully. Because if you rm-rf and you put dot and you hit enter by accident, you've just deleted that folder, and you can never get it back. Thank God for version control because you can just pull it from Git if you pushed. If you didn't, guess who's built that app again? But with ZSH, you have something called trash. So if I ran the trash command, I can actually delete it, move it to a temporary storage. But either way, sorry, good question. Is that good? All right. In the application controller, it comes from something else. Action controller API. Interesting. Now the inheritance is really starting to make sense, right? The name spacing on how that works. More specifically, let's take a look at the views. Why do I not have a particular view that I'm looking for? Why would I not have application.erb in the API? Why would the API only not have an application.html ERB file?
It's just a backend, we don't need that.
What is this exactly? This is the base file, the base HTML that every single one of your ERB files will yield to. So when somebody makes a get_to/burgers, it's going to take the ERB for index, and it's going to slap it right here. If I don't need the views, do I need the application.html? No, so that's one huge difference, right? The entire action view library is deleted, so you've saved a ton of data. It's just in terms of memory and how large your application is. The smaller your application, right, the less data gets transferred over the internet, the faster things happen. Cool? All right, so style sheets as well, I think is like organically sort of missing. There's no like assets folder because the Rails asset pipeline is sort of missing. Because it's not as important. You don't need the JavaScript. You don't need the front end. This builds it for you only using the back end. So let's actually, I'm gonna close this out. Do you guys need this original Favortown app? No, right?
So we're not even gonna use that one anymore.
No, I'm just gonna blast it. We're gonna build the API. Cool. So first thing I need to do in the back end is I'm not gonna scaffold because I want to build it out for you. So we will Rails G resource. What else do you want in Flavortown? Besides maybe, you want burger again? Okay. Burger, right? What was the attributes? Protein and,
Temp and cheese.
oh yeah, temp and cheese. Cool. Great. I'm just gonna have one model because this relies on your understanding of Mod 2, right? You know how to build models, you know how to build controllers, and you know how to do routing. I'm not gonna do a many-to-many here or a one-to-many or anything like that. Come on. Anyways, the idea is,
No, let's say where's that dance program?
Yeah.
Too late now.
Too late now. The
Saved by
idea,
the bell.
thank you. The idea is that what I can do is start this migration so I don't make that same error. That would have been embarrassing. Oh,
Rails DB.
Yeah.
also embarrassing. Moving kind of quick. You probably have an idea how hard it is to like code, type, explain, think, and know what the next step is. It's a lot. All right, so let's start that server. Cool. So with my backend set up, I've got a burger controller, has nothing in it, no views. I have my model, my burger model, which doesn't really need anything right now. I think the most important thing to focus on is this burgers controller, right? So what's the first thing we want to actually kind of see? Right, all of the burgers, right? Just like as a baseline, little def index. And what are the two things that are really important in each of these controller actions? Right. What do we need from the model? Remember the MVC, right? You have model, view, and controller. The controllers that go between the model and the view. So inside this, we need something like at burger equals to, wow, I don't know why I keep forgetting this first R, burger.all, right? Back to Rails land, we okay? Now, what is the response? We normally render something like this, except because we are masters of Rails, we understand that Rails is implicit and smart enough to know that the name will call inside the render for that ERB file. But because we've blasted the ERB file, we can't just render this index HTML. We can't render the ERB anymore. What we really need to do is we need to probably render at burgers. Oops. Boop, boop. But is it okay with just at burgers? What specifically, what type of data is our fetch looking for? Right? So I can render JSON burgers. Specifically, if this is good, I can tell it a status, and I could say, okay. Or I can literally go, okay. And that will tell me the status, if this was successful or not. So let's test. All right? I need to be inside localhost 3000, burgers.json. If I let that fire, I get an empty array. Why?
Because you didn't make any.
I didn't make any burgers, right? So let's make one. Let's go to the terminal. Let's open up a brand new one. And let's do this. Let's cd into Flatiron, Atlanta, 0826, Rails API. No, let's just do API. Boom. And then I cd into a Flavortown backend. And then I can start the Rails console. So I have the console going, I have my server going, got it all going on, right? So here we go, ready? Oops, just kidding. Server, console. So burger.new. I want to actually save that to the database. What do we have here? What was the protein? And that'll be yummy. Yummy protein with a temperature of medium for some reason and cheese true. Dang it. Dang it. Name, I'm sorry. What is it? Protein, temp, and cheese. Wow. How fast things slip. Cool? Y'all didn't correct me at all. Y'all were like, oh yeah, that'll work. That's fine.
I thought it would. You seem confident in my work. It's amazing.
You would have been like, wow, bless up Lord Rails. Yeah. Great. I have one burger, which means if I look at burger.json, I should see.
One burger.
Ooh, good to go. Cool. And then, of course, I know how to do this. I will see that promise, and I will see that one burger. It's coming together. All right. Now, what sort of is the next thing? Actually, let's make one more burger for funsies. Protein of choice?
Lamb.
Lamb tofu. Exactly. Medium, rare.
Ew.
Okay, cheese true. Great. So I have two. What's usually sort of like the next step here? After index, rather. Yeah, right. Let's be real here. Def show. What? Oops. What do we need from the Modelo, and what do we need from the response? Rather, what do we need from the model, and what do we send back to the response? Something like at burger equal to burger.find, passing in the params.
Find by. You want find by.
Why do I want find by?
Because if it doesn't return anything, then it'll explode.
You are V-smart. Does everyone understand that? Find versus find by? Okay, cool. I don't have to go over it. Nice. Powerful. What do I want to render here?
Render JSON.
JSON, for sure. Burger. And the status can be? Okay. What if you didn't pay for it? What would that status be? 404 means did not find. I think 422 is like it couldn't process. And I think 402 is like bad payment or something.
Really?
Yeah. Don't ask me why I know. Here's an important thing to take a look at. Right? That's the console. This is known as the Rails logs. This is going to be mad important. Completed 200. Okay, right? Get to /burgers was okay. So if I were to go to this, this route right here, burgers, I want to say like /1. Let's take a look at what happened.
Payment required.
Get to burgers1 JSON, right? It hit the model, it loaded the data, saved it in an instance variable. This is the file. Row 2, payment required. You can control the statuses, which is important because you want to let not only the user but other potential developers know, hey, what went wrong maybe, right? So it's important that you always send the status, and this is what returned. Is this make sense, right? Is this in an array or just a hash? Just a hash, right? Why would it just be a hash and not inside of an array? It's just one object, one item, right? If we were to look up, right, burger.first, and we were to do something like this, this is what's happening, right? There's a built-in Ruby method called toJSON, and it will stringify into JSON the Ruby instance, the object, into JSON stringified data, which allows me to then post stringified data, string, number, string. This comes out kind of like a string, because strings are basically handled the same amongst languages. That's why JSON's language agnostic. Cool? Because when I pull it back down from JavaScript, I pull it back down with any other language, I parse the JSON, I turn it into that language's key value pair. If I was in Python, I'd turn it into a dictionary. If I was in JavaScript, I'd turn it into an object. If I was using Ruby to pull it down with REST client, I'd be turning it into a Ruby hash. Yeah. So I say that to show you. Can you all see this in the back, by the way? It's really small. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. 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 Heard that before. It hurts the feelings. So. What?
Yeah.
I talk about working out. Y'all are out of control. Y'all are out of control. Pick that up late, and I'm embarrassed. All right, 23 minutes to go. Here we go. So Pamela's off today, which is nice. All right. Ooh. I lost my train of thought. That was awful. So, toJSON. God, that's what this is doing, right? We're pulling the array-like object. Who remembers what this actually is? What does this return? We can check. Because this is just Rails. This is normal Rails. All right? I was going to give 10 points to Gryffindor to anyone that can do it. But the idea is, if I were to, say, hit this route, can anyone tell me like what's actually happening here when I hit this route? What is the first thing Rails will do when it comes to hitting this route?
It's gonna look for the route.
Bless up, right? It's going to look to see, does this route exist? Yeah. And if it does exist, what is it going to tell it to do? A controller action. A controller action. That's right. It's going to tell it to do a controller action. So let's take a look. You've seen the fuzzy search before? Okay, this is called a fuzzy search. As you could start to see, Rails will become a monster. Any of your applications will become a monster in size. It would be very difficult to find files. Right now I have one controller or one model, super easy. But if I have a lot, like 40, 50, 60 migrations, 8 or 9, 20 models, right, 18 controllers, right, once you start to build auth in there, it becomes crazy. If you want to find a file super fast, it's called fuzzy search because I don't need to know exactly everything, just some parts kind of fuzzy. So for example, if I were to look for routes, ROU will give me config routes. If I know that I have a controller called burgers, that's gonna be in my app, specifically my controller, specifically a burger. Fuzzy searching.
What's the hotkey for that now?
Command T. I don't know what it is in code.
No one uses code.
Okay. It doesn't matter. It's Command T in Atom, but you can search fuzzy search VS Code. It'll give you the command. Cool. So if I were to go to my routes, because I did RailsG resources, it gave me resources which defines all 7 RESTful routes, which, as we know, hard coding it would create sort of a get to / burgers, which will point to literally 2. Oh man, it's been a long time. I should have prepped for this lecture. Burgers controller with a specific controller action of index, right? So if I go to get / burgers, it's gonna hit this controller action. If I want to test something in here, I can. Which means that as long as I hit this route, the debugger will hit. So, I gotta get rid of this John. If I hit this route, the debugger will hit, which means that I can probably see this happen. I'm going to hit the route. It's going to hit the controller action. It's going to query the database. It's going to solve the bybug, and I will see it in the log. Boom. Wow, that never request. Who knows how long it might take, right? It's powerful stuff. So, does anyone know what this actually is? It's irrelevant. I think it's an active record collection proxy. Oops, spelled it wrong again. Yeah, active record relation. So, in the index, burgers is going to be 1 or more, or sometimes none, potentially multiple objects. So it's always wrapped in an array. So the index will give you an array of objects. The show will just give you 1 object, right? Kind of like a super fast review. But yeah, you can test your code front end, back end separately. If something is going wrong with the server, where do you look? In the server logs. Something goes wrong with your JavaScript, your front end. Promise is bad, right? What happens if I just kill it right now? And I cancel. I do not allow it to finish the request. If I exit hard and I do not let the render JSON to finish, it'll cancel. The server stopped in the middle because I stopped it. It never finished the response. So naturally, error, empty response, something went wrong with the promise. I talked about the promise being successful, which means it was resolved, but if anything goes wrong, it will, in fact, reject. All right, so there's 2 statuses for a promise, resolve and reject. Cool? So if it's resolved, good to go, something happened. If it's rejected, it means muy malo, bad. How we feel about like the front and back end? Again, the goal is to see the separation. You already know how Rails works. Cool? All right, I'm going to talk about something that I think is important, and then we will talk about sending a more complicated fetch request. We'll go through the fetch, and then we will talk about shaping data. So, nobody corrected me on this? This is disgusting. Look at that. Ugh. All right, cool. What the? Oh. Man, I am losing it. Sorry. That's correct. All right. So, what's the next thing that happens in Rails?
You want to be able to create.
New, create. Let's take a look at routes. How many RESTful routes do you think that's built?
7.
Let's check. Come on now. Oh, that's right. Embarrassing, because I killed the server. Oh, putang. So. How many routes is that? Yeah, I mean, let's not count patch and post as 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's like update. 5. Why? What is the 2 things that are missing?
Oh, it's new and
Create.
Index, create, show, update, update twice, and destroy. Update twice because patch and put, right?
New and edit. Handled by the front end.
New and edit are view pages that just show forms. If this is an API only, no views, naturally, new and edit don't need to exist. So I would say, technically speaking, the next thing should actually be the create tray, the create route. How we feel about that? So inside the create, I need the 2 things. What do I need from the model, and what do I need from the, what do I send back as a response? What do I need from the model?
the new.
Params.
Yes, the params. I need the params. I need to do something like berger.create, and then I need to send in the params somehow. Ugh. And then something like at burger or like new burger or whatever you want to do. Then you want to render JSON something like burger, right? That's kind of like the idea. Without a view for the Act and View library, without Rails, we must have a front end view. So who liked Form 4, collection select, form tag? Who was digging it? That's right. Okay. Okay. I personally like them, but most people don't. And that's okay. So without that, guess we're going to go back to good old. Okay. I put it down somewhere. Where's the front end? Good old vanilla HTML. Cool? So, nothing crazy about this button, right? Getting the data. Do you need to see it? Where if I hit the button, I fetch the data and I slap it on the top?
No.
Okay. We're going to run into a weird error and I will show you. So, check it out. Ready? Let me get rid of the buy bug. Oop. Cool. If I send this request, I get back the array. No big deal, right? I'm going to copy this line of code, character for character, and I'm going to go to Reddit. I'm just going to go to regular Reddit, and I'm going to see Mr. Reddit over here, or the bunch of warnings that come up apparently, and I'm going to fire this code. Access that localhost 3000 burgers.json from origin Reddit has been blocked, right? Because of something called CORS policy, no access control about origin. What do you think is happening?
You're trying to make a request from a different website.
What is the origin reddit.com from this page? Stupid. The origin of this page is reddit.com. Embarrassing. I'm not on my A game today. When I was on this tab, localhost 3000, the origin is localhost 3000. So should localhost 3000 be able to make requests to the localhost 3000 server? Yes, that makes sense. If I was Reddit, should I be able to make requests to localhost 3000? No, the idea is this. And it always gets real dicey, so I want to make sure I explain it correctly. Let's just say Siobhan has like this powerful application. And I have this powerful app, and Siobhan calls me and is like, yo, Evans, I'm going to make some requests. And I was like, no, that's my information, that's my data. Ugh, get out of here with that. Should Siobhan be able to make a request to my back-end server?
No.
Yeah, always the worst. Should Siobhan's website be able to make a request to my back-end?
No.
No, right? So naturally, by default, all of these cross origins, Siobhan.com and evanswang.com, don't go there, it's a real website, should they be able to interact with each other by default? I'm a web developer, come on now. No, right? So cross origins are blocked by default. And so when you see something like this, do not panic. You simply go, Rails cores. Okay? Paul Nicholson, I think you know this guy. Okay. We're gonna go to actually the source code though. I mean, Paul's great, but can you beat the docs? Sometimes when they're bad, but here they're okay. I'm just being hella real, you know. All right. First thing is we have to look. Rack cores provide support for cross-origin resource sharing. For Rack, yay! Rack is important because Rails is built on Rack, which is barely touched on in Mod 2, yeah? Okay, great. All right, we're just gonna smooth go over that. And this is how it works. Look at these docs. Oh my goodness. Install the gem. Add Rack cores. Or in your gem file, Rack cores. Bet. Say less, fam. Gem file. All right, I'm gonna look for Rack cores. Wow. It actually exists, it's just commented by default. So when I save the file, I probably need to shut the server down, a little boondle action, and then I'm going to restart the server so that the new gems can take place. Configuration. Put something like this in your code below for a config, not an application. Okay, cool. So I'm looking for something like this. In Rails 5, there's some sort of config middleware insert before, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Oops. Let's actually go to the code. If I do not do --API for my Rails, and I just do Rails new, it will be in my config application file. However, we used Rails just as an API, and one of the main differences is if Rails is an API, cross-origin, of course, would be a massive thing to deal with. So it makes sense that it's its own file. So if I just typed in cores in my fuzzy search, it's under config, not application, but config initializers cores RP. If I do that, I see, man, that code looked familiar. One more time. That's what we're looking for, right? So here's what's happening. You can, in fact, go into your Rails, the application, the config, the middleware, which we won't get to till Mod 5, and I can insert some things that I want to do. Origin. Do I want example.com to have access to my server? What about shavong.com? Maybe. Here in our demo app, because obviously this burger app has like 0 proprietary information, I'm going to use the star, which allows every single website to have access to my API. This creates a public API. Something like weather.com, maybe Reddit, where anyone, anywhere, from any origin should be able to access it, just as an API. So if that's in fact true, can I run it right now from Reddit? I have gotten a question every single mod without fail that says, hey, my cores look really good. I'm still getting the error. And I'm like, read line 1 of the course file. And you're like, got you. You got to restart the server. Cool. So, bloop, bloop. All right. Server's good to go, which means that theoretically, there's no more cores, no more blocking. It returns as promised. Ooh. So, how we feel about cores, understanding cores, just how to get around that error, and ultimately specifying which people you want to have access to.
How do you separate those? Let's say you have 2 URLs. How does that work for origin? You can't just comment.
Well, here's the thing. If I wanted just example.com, well, you have to put the full thing, right? The full origin, like HTTPS, blah, blah, blah. And then you can have like site2.com and then site3.com. If you wanted them just to do gets, right, which would make sense. You don't want people messing with your database. Then you could just give them get. But if somebody paid you money and was like, yo, listen, I need full access to that database. Here's $10 a month. All right, cool. You can do everything but delete. Savvy? Yeah, that's
The
it.
person that owns example.com can access so many like shitty Rails apps to make fun of random
Probably.
people.
100%.
That's
Yes.
fine.
I'm not gonna repeat that question for the recording, but yes, I think everyone else heard it though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Oh man, we're doing great. So, we talked about CORS, fix that error, got around that, understand the hiding of your information or allowing it to be public, specifying who we can do that to. And finally, we need to actually do this, right? The idea is that if I'm going to create a burger, I need to send the params over. We finally need to get to part 2 of fetch. So I'm going to be inside my,
Did you need to leave example.com?
I did not. But no changes will happen because I didn't restart the server. But good catch. See how you can like get around and be really lazy? All right, so check it out. I need a button, all right, that maybe doesn't say get that data because one, we don't have time to do that, but how do we feel about being able to get the data? All right, let's actually do this instead. Let's make a burger. Okay, now let's think through that feature. Okay, just kidding. Make a burger. Is this button okay to make a burger? I mean, it doesn't really do anything right now, but more importantly, remember what I need on the back end. I need params. So, is the button sufficient? That's right. We need a form, and we need some inputs. So input, I want to say like protein, and then it was temp, and then it was cheese. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, this is like a checkbox, and these are text. I'm sorry. This is going to be protein. This is going to be cheese. I'm sorry. Temp. I am so sorry. And then this is cheese. It's harder than it looks. All right. Just thank you for your understanding. And then this is submit. All right. Oh, I want to go over something. Let's send some text and let's send some keys on over. Interesting. Let's refresh. Okay, great. Oh, dang it. We don't know what's what. Oh, dang it. All right, here we go. And this is going to be P for protein, T for temp. Oh, dang it. Oh, whatever. T for temp, C for, it's fine, that's a checkbox. And these are keys. Ah, what the? I like that y'all laugh at me because at least you're not getting frustrated like I am up here. Great. Protein, temperature, cheese, and then just some keys, right? So let's do this. Let's do it right. Let's do some index.js. Great. So this is how to grab the data, but let's do this. Grab the form. Const form or burger maker is equal to, what information do I have here? Nothing. Let's make one. Equal to the burger form. Cool. Document.query selector with the burger form. Without getting crazy, because we always have time to test. Burger maker, on refresh, I grabbed the form. I tested it, it's good to go. Questions? All right. I'm not going to mock your intelligence, that's why I'm moving a little bit faster. So we're past that, right? And I want to make sure that we know when that form is submitted, so we need to add the event listener. And what are we listening for? Right, the submit of the form. That's going to pass in a callback, which actually has access to the event. When it comes to forms, should I prevent the default?
Yes, well, after you submit, then.
What does forms do by default? Send a post request. Do I want to prevent that by default? Yeah. I don't want this form to submit regular styles because if it does, then it's going to do that full page refresh and it's going to be a bad user experience. I just want to submit that form, hit a button, and then something happen. I don't want that full page refresh for it to happen. And so what's the next thing? We need the data, right? So we can do const, and that's going to be the protein is equal to document.query selector, specifically the, oh dang it, ID, dang it, P. Here we go. Boop, 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 and we don't need the rest. And this is going to be the temp. This is going to be the cheese, and this is going to be the key. So let's do this. The protein, temp, cheese, and the keys. This is going to be P, T, C, and K. Any questions so far? Just grabbing the 4 inputs, right? Because that's important. Now that I have those 4 inputs, what's important about them?
You're gonna use them to create burger.
Right, the values, right? That's what's happening, right? I'm going to put something like the protein is going to be horse, right? What's the temperature? Legend. And then the keys are all right. Checkbox, and if I hit this button, it's going to submit. Where does it submit to? And does it submit at all? So yeah, that question is kind of confusing, right? If I click this button, does this form submit? If I hit the button, does the form submit? Come on now. Come on now.
No.
No, it doesn't. Which means that because we stopped the HTML from default submitting, there must be a way that JavaScript can submit. What is the RESTful route to hit this route? It's all coming together now. I want to hit that create action, which means I must make a post to burgers. Okay, so if I'm doing that, let me just do this. Cool. Ah, this is the Reddit one. This is not the one I want. Oh, I lost it. It's all right. Here we go. So, localhost 3000 / burgers. Yeah? What kind of request will this be right now?
Post request.
What kind of request will this be inherently by default?
Yeah.
Do we want to hit a get to burgers?
No.
We want to hit that? Cool. It will do some stuff. But where's the data being sent though?
Backend.
Right? I'm just hitting the post. I'm not actually sending over any data. The payload is not being sent. So let's figure out how to use fetch the MDN. What the? There's usually a pretty good one here. This bad Johnson right here. Remember I told you about async await? It's going to be very useful. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's just talk about the fetch. URL, good to go. Yeah? In this one object, before you even get to the thens, here are a couple of things that are important. You can set the method, right? Here we're going to hit that post to / burgers because that's the route Rails is looking for to hit the create action. Mode, this is not super important. We've kind of like allowed all cores, so we can kind of lock that out, right? Caching you're going to learn way later. Credentials are also not important right now. This is super important. So method and headers. Headers, you have content type, which is if I'm going to send a post request, I need to tell the server what type of data you're about to get. From my application, you're about to get some JSON. It's coming in hot. There's also another thing in here that I think is important called accept, which means that if the server sends you back a response, what type of data will you accept? If I make a request for an image, do I want JSON back? Or do I want to accept an image? These are known as MIME types, and I'm only going to try to dive into it for a few minutes. So MIME types, MDN. Wow, what a difference that made. I think it's like, yes, there it is, multi-purpose internet mail extensions. But the idea behind this is it could tell you all the different types of data that you can send back and forth, right? PNGs, JPEGs, SVGs, audio. If you're making a request to Spotify, guess what they're going to give you back? An image file, JSON, or audio. Oh, remember .wav files? I think there used to be like a MP3 file. But the idea is that like you can change what you accept. So let's continue here. Method post, I'm going to put this on its own line so that you could see it a little bit mo better. I said post was important. I said headers were important. If you type header, it will fail silently. This is one of the biggest bugs. Headers. Cool. This is an object with key value pairs. You have, if you ever forget, content type, and then you have, I think it's like accepts, and then you can tell it that you're going to get some JSON as well. Meaning, if I make this request, I'm going to send JSON and I will accept JSON. That's why I need to parse it. Because your server will send you what? Your server is going to send you back JSON. So, how we feel so far on headers? Okay. Huh? Oh, I thought you went like this. And I was like, oh, damn, that was aggressive. Okay. Redirect and refer are, again, next level stuff we won't talk about. Body. This is where your payload goes. This is where the data goes. So, remember, inside this one object, cool, comma, I have the body. This is where my data goes. So if I sent over something like random key and I made it cool value, when I send this fetch and I make a post request, what I'm really sending over is one key value pair. Let's test that. Inside my backend, I'm going to drop a bybug. Because if I can hit this route, I can test it. And what am I going to try to test?
What's been sent over?
The params, right? So, again, let's go here. Remember, on submit prevents default, grabs the inputs, and sends the post request. Ready? So it doesn't matter what I type in here, because I'm not using that data yet. On submit, status 400, bad request, row.
Oh, you have a space after the accept. Does that matter between the accept and the comma?
That should not matter.
If you write your controller, this is because you can put the,
Check box.
like the okay, status okay, whatever.
No, that shouldn't matter. Oh, did I not finish the method? No, I did. Let's take a look at the error. In the Rails logs, there was an error. Started a post to burgers. Error occurred while parsing the request param. Oh yeah, okay, that's what happened. Error happened when parsing the request parameters. Do you see how I kind of knew where to look? Was it an error in my JavaScript? No, it was an error in the server. So, let's take a look. Status 400 means what? Bad request. If it was a bad request, is that front end or back end? If I'm sending you a request from the front end and the request is bad, that's coming from 400 series, client side, 500 series, server side. So if the client request is bad, we're going to have to move mod 1's lecture. If the client's request is bad, then we'll take a look at what's going on here. Something went wrong with the body. What type of data am I sending over? I'm sending technically a JavaScript object. I'm not sending JSON data, right? I need to turn it into JSON data. So I can JSON.stringify this whole object. And now it's JSON data, because what is the server expecting? What did I tell the server you're about to get? JSON. Did I send JSON originally? No, I sent a plain old JavaScript object. So I have to convert it to JSON. So now, dang, this lecture is long, and I'm sorry. If I hit submit, now I'm in the bybug. What are params? Random key cool value. So if I take a look at my code, how did I get random key cool value?
So you posted what you sent.
Right, I sent over this, but what do I really want to send over?
All the constants, protein, temp, cheese.
Yep, I want to send like something like protein is going to be protein.value, right? And then I want to take the temperature, temp.value, right? Cheese, I want to create all those key values so that on the back end, when I check the params, I can then do burger.create, and then I can pass in the params of protein, the params of cheese, the params of temperature, and that's how I'm going to create the object. Let's take a 5-minute break. Y'all look like you're hurting. Cool? Let's take a 5-minute break. So we actually need those key value pairs. That's important in the body. That's where we left off. And so the point that I'm trying to make is, again, the bybug you can test, but more specifically, okay, this is not important. Is that, okay, more specifically, it's just gonna be, I closed the back end. Okay, more specifically, this is what needs to happen, all right? Do you remember what Form 4 did for you in the way that it nested the hash? So then you can finally do something, I closed it, let me open it again. So that you can just do something like this, burger params. Do you remember that? And then we got to the private methods. Then we whitelisted those attributes by creating the burger params. And this did something like params.require, the key of burger. And then you just simply permitted the attributes of temperature, protein, cheese. Yeah? How do we create a nested burger param in order for this to work? Right on the front end. Instead of this, you can have, in fact, check this out. I'm going to do some spacing for you. Burger at a key pointing to another object. Now I've nested the burger params coming through. So protein.value, and this is going to be cheese, temp, and then I don't need keys. Keys was just to kind of like show you what comes across as params, but we've kind of like already got there. So this will create, yeah? Hmm? Oh, thank you. Wow, pair programming at its finest. I appreciate it. So, how are you feeling about body? It's basically the params that get sent over. That's really it. All right. So if I refresh now, line 30, I might be in JavaScript hill.
Commas?
Oh yeah. Java. Ooh, pair programming at its finest. So protein is going to be, I don't know. Brittany. Okay, chicken. Sure. I'm sorry. My mind is lost. And chicken has to be fully cooked. All right. Is there cheese on there? Sure. Why not? And if I hit submit. Oh man, I didn't actually continue. Great. What the? Oh yeah. So let's check out. Oh, I'm outside the function. That's great. Sorry, that was like from the previous bug that I never like escaped out of. All right, here we go. Ready? Let's make one chicken 2 eat. All right, with cheese. Let's take a look at burger params. Temp, protein, cheese. And then let's go next. It looks like it successfully created. And so if I hit continue, it's just going to continue. And look what it returned me, that brand new burger object of 3. It looks like the second burger actually saved successfully as well. No, we had 2 burgers already, right? Yeah. So there we go. And that's basically how like the post for fetch works, right? You're hitting a server, you're hitting a route in the back end. Something I wanted to point out that I think is really important is right now you've been using something like this, JSON server, right? -- watch, and then you give it the file, db.json, I think. That's like a local file. It's like a local server where you don't have to spin up the Rails backend entirely. It's just an open RESTful server, so you can make post, patch, put, delete, and it's very easy to kind of use. But this is basically what you'll be creating, right? It'll be a Rails backend, and then a vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS front end, and that's going to be your full stack application. It doesn't really make sense for me to micro teach everything because you should be able to put the pieces together now. What if I wanted to update something? What type of request should this send? Patch, which means that you need to have a route, you need to have a controller action, right? You need to look at the model, and you need to send back a response, right? What if you want to delete something on your page? If it was like, delete this Flavor Town thing, I click the button, it grabs the data, it sends the request, deletes it from the database, and then the last thing is remove it off the DOM. Right, I just want to make sure I give you the tools. I'm not going to baby you and walk you through every single step, but do you feel like you have the tools to make all the requests? Do you feel like you know how to use Rails, build Rails as an API? Okay, the last thing I want to teach you is burgers is kind of silly in the way that it's just cheese, maybe the protein, and the temperature. Very often your application will have users, right? Very, very often your app will have users. What are the 2 main attributes of user in anyone's application?
Name, password,
Username and password, right? If I hit your API, do I want to see password? Even if it's a hashified string, do I want to see password? Is it important that I send over, create it, update it every time?
No.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. What if there are other attributes that are important that you don't always want to send over, right? Like definitely not password. We want to be able to shape and control how we send the data. So there's something called a serializer. And we'll do this, I think it's like fast JSON API. So there's two ways to do it. There's an article here that is really good. There's something built in, and it's in beta right now for Rails. It's called AMS, Active Model Serializer. We will be using production grade serializers, and that's what this does. All right, if I use the built-in active model serializer, if I serialize, if I change, right, my user, if I do user.all and I have 200 records in my database, just 200, 250, just kidding. In order to remove password, remove created at, updated at, and some other attributes, in order to serialize it, it's going to take 138 milliseconds. If I use Netflix's fast JSON API, those same 250 records take 3. Now you can imagine if you have 1,000 users, that's times 4. That's already past half a second, but this is 12 milliseconds. You still won't even feel the blip. So this is like the production grade version. So I'm gonna teach you how to use this, okay? And by me, I mean the docs.
So Netflix just released this for the public, or?
Yeah.
Are there any like repositories that you have to pay for?
Yeah. Yes. There are a lot. Yeah. Well, that's because if it's free, it's for me. I'm in the business of teaching people tools and skills, and I do not want to take your money. You know? That's fair. That's very fair. Cool. So, oops. I'm going to my gem file, and I'm simply going to add the fast JSON API. I'm going to kill my server. I'm going to run bundle. I'm going to start my server back up. Right. Execute bundle. Wow. Okay, great. So you can use the bundle generator if you're using the library, and you can just do Rails G serializer, the model, and some attributes. However, oh yeah, that's fine. Rails G serializer, the model, and the attributes. This gives me a new command. Let me kill this. Let me kill this. It's not movie that we have, but we have burger model. We have protein. We have temp, and we have cheese. And it creates one file under a folder called serializers, burger serializer. Serializers, burger serializer. Look at these attributes. Cool? So if I go back and refresh, oh, I didn't start serve. Oh, so embarrassing. I see all of this, which is interesting. Let's take a look at the documentation and see how do you do it. Return a hash. It looks like I have to do movie serializer.new, wrap the object, and then run this serializable hash on it. So if I were to go back to my controller, I'm going to run burger serializer. Say again?
You have a JSON, right?
We could do both. I'll show you. Serializable hash. And let's find out. Oh, something went wrong. Oh, .new, yeah. Ooh, thank you. Boom. And it sends these attributes over as a serialized hash. If I wanted to shape the data in my serializer, the only thing that matters is the protein. The only thing that comes across is the protein. If I needed, and for whatever reason, burgers have many toppings, and you have a toppings model, in your serializer and in your model, and inside the model itself needs to have the relationship. Yeah? Any questions on serializers, why they're useful?
So it just makes it look more clean cut.
It will shape the data for you, and you can control what gets sent over.
So like passwords and personal information, emails.
Right. So inside the serializer, you're not going to put user name, and you're going to put username, but you're not going to put password because you don't want to send that over. You don't want that exposed in your API. You're only going to put in, under attributes. You're only going to put in the attributes that you want. All right. So if I wanted protein and cheese, but not temperature, it'll just be protein and cheese.
So it's removing it before it even gets sent over.
Look at what's happening here. I'm wrapping this whole thing. All right. It's going to take the full regular burger object, and it's going to create a new serialized version of it. That serialized version is coming from the burger serializer, where you're specifying the attributes you actually want to send over. And then that's what you render JSON. Cool.
Attributes can be called anything. Like you can name it ingredients, or does it have to be called in the serializer?
This is attributes of the object.
Always attributes. It's always attributes.
There's always attributes.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to learn more on how to use this, it will tell you. So like you can set type, all right? Belongs to has many attributes. There are other things in here. You'd have to look through the docs to see what else you can do. All right. I don't want to take all of your time, but I know that lectures run real long. We covered a lot. So are there any questions as to front end and back end? Front end just vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Back end being this Rails API server that you can include validations on, your model, your migrations, and then how to serialize the object so the response is what you want it. You can shape that response. That's what we covered today.
What's the difference between returning a hash and returning serialized JSON?
Okay. So the hash is going to be literally a hash object, which render JSON will JSON, yeah. This will just send the JSON. This will just convert it to JSON so you can render it directly.
So would you have to, if you wanted to use the serialized JSON, could
You can.
then not do render JSON?
I
How
think,
do you-
I haven't done it this way, but I believe you can get rid of this. And I'm under the impression you should be able to serializable JSON. Just kidding. Womp womp. You can run those commands. We're not going to do it here, but I do the bybug, and I'd call both to see what the difference are. Oh, one's going to come as a hash, one's going to come as a bunch of string. Yeah. Okay, that's it. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.